Everyone, welcome to part 1 of ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager's free training series. So, Network Configuration Manager is the configuration and change management module of the broader ManageEngine item suite of products. So, our item solutions help you cover end-to-end IT management by providing your organization with AI-powered full-stack observability capabilities. And the modules can be purchased individually or as a bulk with our flagship product, ManageEngine Op Manager Plus. So we'd like to take a moment to announce a great achievement. Our ITOM Solutions digital experience monitoring capabilities has been recognized by Gartner in their Magic Quadrant report for the second year in a row. The Gartner Magic Quadrant for digital experience monitoring highlights key market trends and recognizes the leading providers that are shaping the DEM landscape with innovative capabilities and strong execution. If you'd like a complimentary copy of the report, kindly vote yes in the poll that has been triggered, and we'll ensure that the report finds its way to your inbox. Now, let's take a quick look at the agenda for today's session. First, we'll look at why you might need a network configuration management tool. Then, we'll see how ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager can be your comprehensive configuration management tool. Then, we'll talk about the various editions of NCM. Then we'll look into the requirements for installing the products, and then we'll move on to the core functionalities of NCM one by one. That includes device discovery, credential association, configuration backup, configuration and change management, firmware vulnerability management, and finally, we'll end the session with disaster recovery. So let's take a look at the first topic. Why do you need a network configuration management tool? Basically, configurations are pivotal for every network because a single line of configuration can make or break a network. Hence, it needs to be monitored effectively so that no unauthorized changes are made to the configuration. But that's very difficult in large and growing network infrastructures because the admins cannot manage all the device configuration and changes manually. So without a tool, this would also lead to a path where there would be more security vulnerabilities due to human errors. In order to avoid this, you might require a network configuration management tool which eases the work of your network administrators. So, ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager helps minimize configuration errors, detect configuration changes in real time, and helps you roll back to trusted configurations whenever required, which ensures industry standard compliance with the industry policies such as PCI DSS, HIPAA, SOX, etc., and also streamlines the entire maintenance process. ManageEngine NCM is a comprehensive network change and configuration management tool, which is specifically developed to manage complex configurations of all your network devices, including routers, switches, firewalls, and more. It helps you take complete control of your device configuration management lifecycle. So here I've listed some of the core functionalities of NCM. So let's start with job scheduling. What is job scheduling? Say there are certain network operations that you might need to do in regular intervals, right? Like configuration backup. And there are also other tasks that you have to plan and execute at a particular period of day or something. So kind of like pushing configurations during non-peak usage hours. So such operations can be scheduled for the right time using this job scheduling feature. Next is configuration comparison. It makes it easy to check differences between two configurations, whether files from different devices or different versions of the same device by showing them side by side with color-coded highlights. Then with real-time change detection, you get instant alerts whenever someone changes a configuration. So you can quickly spot unauthorized changes and fix issues faster. And we have configuration rollback. So when you're pushing a configuration change, it sometimes results in performance or security issues. In such cases, you need to revert the change as quickly as possible. With configuration rollback, you can revert your network's configuration to the baseline version or the previously stable version. Next, we have the user-based access control, wherein the admin can restrict user access for certain operators and provide them management access only for 2 or 3 devices or specific like vendor specific devices. And with change review and approval mechanism, if they make any changes to the devices they have access to, It will go through a review process by notifying the admin. The change will be approved only if it is validated and deemed appropriate by the admin. Or else they can choose to reject the change, which will then be notified to the operator as well. We call this role-based access control, which we'll be discussing in the part 2 of our free training series. So next is policy compliance verification. Network Configuration Manager provides 4 policies by default, which includes CIS, PCI DSS, SOX, and HIPAA. And on top of this, you can also create custom policies from scratch as per your organization's requirements. Next is remote firmware upgrade. So there's something called Configlets in Network Configuration Manager, which is nothing but script templates that let you automate and push configuration commands in bulk. With Configlets, you can push remote firmware upgrades to multiple devices across different locations. So these are some of the core functionalities of Network Configuration Manager. You should know that Network Configuration Manager comes in 3 different editions. They are free, professional, and enterprise. In the free edition, you can manage 2 devices. In the professional edition, you can manage up to 10,000 devices. And in the enterprise edition, you can manage up to 50,000 devices in a central probe architecture. So let me tell you how these editions practically differ from each other. Here on the left side, you can see the professional editions architecture diagram, and on the right side, you can see the enterprise editions architecture diagram. You can see that the professional edition can be deployed on a particular server, and you can manage the entire network device configurations from the set server. But if you have a headquarters in one location and your branches in other different locations, you can utilize this enterprise edition, wherein you can deploy the central server in either your network operations center or your headquarters, and you can deploy all your probe servers in the specific branch offices. So with this design, you can manage the network configurations of devices from different locations, all from a single source of truth, that is the central server. So this way, the headquarters will know the changes that are happening in the network devices of all the locations in real time. So this is the difference between the professional edition and the enterprise edition. Next, let's take a quick look at the prerequisites that are needed for ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager. So here I have listed the minimum system requirements for 50 devices for Network Configuration Manager. You should have a 2 GHz dual core processor, 4 GB of RAM, 100 GB of storage, and PostgreSQL or MS SQL database support. And you must also have a Windows or a Linux operating system. This is the requirement for 50 devices only. So if you want to manage, say, more than 50 devices, you can visit the system requirements page of Network Configuration Manager, where we have listed the system requirements for up to 50,000 devices. So at the end of the session, we'll also be sharing a recording of this session along with the presentation material used via email after the session. So the links to the system requirements can be found in the presentation here. So now we are moving on to the ports and protocols section of NCM. So protocols supported in NCM include SSH, Telnet, SCP, TFTP, SFTP, and REST API. So port 69 is for TFTP, and port 22 is specified for SSH or SSHP or SFTP. Port 514 is designated for syslog, and port 13306 is for database, and 8060 is reserved for HTTPS protocol. Before we move on to the next session, so let's just have a quick recap of what we have covered up until now. We saw why you need a network configuration management tool and how ManageEngine NCM addresses this particular gap with its core functionalities. Then we saw the different editions of NCM, that is professional, free, professional, and enterprise. Then we saw the prerequisites for installing NCM. And finally, we saw the supported protocols and the corresponding ports. So if there are like any folks who have joined later, no worries. As I had mentioned earlier, we will also be sharing the recording of the session via email along with the presentation material used. So now let's move on to the first workflow of NCM, device discovery. So here I have given a short architecture diagram of how SNMP discovery works in Network Configuration Manager. Basically, the discovery engine of NCM sends an SNMP request to the device, and the device will in turn send a sys object OID to the discovery engine. The discovery engine will match the received sysObject OID with the default or custom sysObject OID available. So if a match is found, then the device will be added automatically, and the corresponding device template will also be mapped. If a match is not found, the device needs to be added manually. You can manually add the device template as well. The SNMP profiles that we support include version 1, version 2, and version 3. So these are some of the device discovery types available in NCM. One is SNMP discovery and the other is manual addition. SNMP discovery is for SNMP enabled devices or SNMP supported devices. We can discover the devices in like three ways. So first, you can provide an IP name or host name. Second, you can provide an IP range. And third is by importing a CSV file. Let me quickly show this to you in the UI. So go to settings, discovery. So here under the IP or host name, you can discover the device individually by entering the set details here, and then you can select the respective credential from here. If you don't have the credential added already, you can click this plus icon over here and then click discover. So let's say that you have a range of devices. You have like 5 to 10 devices, and in that case, it doesn't make sense for you to like enter the device IPs or host names one by one, right? It would be like a huge waste of time. So we also support the IP range option. You can just like mention the start IP and end IP, and then like select the respective credentials and click discover, and there you go. So the CSV file import option is like, let's say that you have all the device details in CSV file, and what you can do is that you can essentially just upload the CSV file into to over here, and then you can select the respective credentials, and then you can click discover. So this is how you discover devices in ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager. So I'd also like to mention that we have a certain format that has to be followed while you are discovering devices via the CSV file. So you can find the format over here. So this is how the entries has to be. So you must specify the host name or IP address, followed by the device template name, followed by the series and model of the device. So this format needs to be followed for every device listed in the CSV file. Now manual addition. So this discovery method is mostly for SNMP disabled devices or for quick addition to your inventory. So let's once again like switch to the UI. Let's go to inventory and add device. So as you can see here also we have two options. You can either add the device individually with your host name or IP address, or else like you can import the devices from a text file. So you can enter the host name or IP and select the specific vendor, the device template name. You can also like enter the series and model of the said device, and then you can click on add. So this is similar to kind of what we saw earlier. So this is the process of discovering devices in NCM, and it helps network admins easily add devices to the console and start monitoring them immediately. So here we have some of the possible errors that one might encounter while discovering your devices in NCM. The first error is when the device is reachable and the SNMP community is correct, but still the network device is not getting added. So there could be two possible reasons for this. Either the SNMP read community might be incorrect, or SNMP might have been disabled from the device. So in this case, kindly check for the read community and check whether SNMP has been enabled in the set device and then try again. So the second case is that when you encounter a situation where the object ID of a device isn't mapped to any of the available device templates. So it means that there isn't any template to use for the set device. So in this case, you can go to the sys object ID finder under settings, device management, and sys object ID finder. And then like you can add a new sys object ID to the device template. So now another scenario is when there isn't a default device template available in NCM. for a specific device type. Here you have a couple of options. You can either add or clone an existing device template that fits your needs, or you can reach out to our support team and let them know that you need that particular device template and they'll help you out. So now it's time to talk about device templates. What exactly are device templates? So essentially, device templates contain all the necessary commands required for a device's functionality. So in a large network infrastructure, there is often a heterogeneity of devices, right? Like you got like devices from multiple vendors and of multiple types, and like each device has its like own set of like configuration commands for like different tasks. So because of this heterogeneity, it's impractical for network admins to manually keep track of all the configurations and apply them every time a new device is discovered. So instead, what they can do is that they can use this device template feature available in NCM. So we provide over 400 device templates that cover around 7,100 different devices and the configurations. So this makes things easier for admins as they don't have to create commands for every device manually. With the device template, you can apply the predefined settings to your device and start managing it right away. So let's see how this works in our UI. Go to config automation and device templates. So here you see a list of all the available device templates. From this list, you can view a template, you can clone it, or even export it. We also support REST device templates. So if you click on any CLI device template, so you can find all the necessary configurations from here. That is the change detection and the backup settings and more. So if these configuration commands suit a particular device, you can simply add this device to a template. I mean, you can simply add a newly discovered device to the template, and you can start using it right away. So this is device templates in NCM. Now we'll get into credentials. So these are some of the possible combinations of protocols for backup operation in NCM, which includes SSH, Telnet, SSH TFTP, Telnet TFTP, SSH SCP, SNMP TFTP, SSH SFTP, and REST API. So now let's go through how configuration backup works for different protocols. So NCM supports multiple ways to backup device configurations, ensuring flexibility across diverse environments. So first one is SSH Telnet protocol configuration backup. Excuse me. So in this case, NCM initiates a configuration backup command to the specific device. The device then transfers its configuration via SSH or Telnet. So once the configuration reaches NCM, it's encrypted and stored in NCM database. So next is SSH Telnet with TFTP. So like the previous one, NCM's built-in TFTP server can receive configuration files sent via TFTP after NCM triggers the backup command. So next is SCP. So similarly, using NCM's SCP server, the configuration can be securely transferred via SCP. The SNMP with TFTP. So the TFTP server sends an SNMP request and the device responds by sending its configuration via TFTP. In every case, once the configuration file reaches NCM, regardless of the protocol used, it is encrypted and stored safely in the NCM database. So let's go over how you can provide credentials in NCM. So first, let's look at a scenario where both a password and an enable password needs to be configured. So on the left-hand side, you have the telnet interface, and on the right-hand side, you have the apply credentials screen in NCM. So here you need to provide the login name, password, and prompt. For the enable password type, choose password, enter the enable password, and also set the enable prompt. So this way, the system knows how to handle both standard and enable passwords for the device. So now if you want to, go directly to the enable mode without entering any additional password, here's how you can do it. So provide the login name, password, and prompt as usual. It's just that in the enable password type, while you select password, you will leave the password field empty. This allows you to access the enable mode directly. Next, we have a scenario where the enable mode does not require any password. So after entering the login name and password, you can choose no password in the enable password type field and provide the necessary prompt. Here, the system will skip asking for an enable password and move on to the next operation smoothly. So there's also a case for an empty enable password. Here, after filling the above fields as before, in the enable password type section, select empty password and provide the enable prompt. When you press enter, it won't ask for a password and will go straight to the prompt, letting you continue your work without any interruption. So in some configurations, you might have both an username and an enable username password setup. So after filling in the fields as usual, you'll see an option to provide an enable username and enable password as well. So this is like particularly useful when devices have more specific credential requirements. So here's another example with a 3COM router where the prompt is set to a colon. This is just to show that you can customize the prompt based on your device's requirements. NCM also supports REST API. For example, for a pfSense device, you can choose HTTPS as the protocol, set the authentication type to local database, and then provide the username and password. You can also select the configuration file type and click Save. This way, REST API support gets enabled for the device. And finally, there's support for SSH key authentication as well. Instead of using a password, you can create a SSH key, provide it in the apply credentials screen, and set the appropriate prompt and proceed with the enable password type. So this provides a more secure alternative to traditional password authentication. So let's see how this works in the UI. Let's go to inventory devices and let's select a device. So you see the key icon over here, right? Let's click it. And you have the apply credential screen over here. So from here, you can, choose the relevant protocol. And you can, select the user credential profile from here. And you can enter the password or the prompt. You can also enter the enable username. We can also set the enable password type based on your requirements. So this is how you apply credentials to a device. So you can also there's also an option for you to use REST API. So this is where like you can enable this specific option. And also there's like another interesting fact. So in case like you prefer using an SSH key instead of a password, you can do so as well, like with this option from here. So that's it. That's basically like how credentials work in like our ManageEngine network configuration manager. Let's get back to the presentation at hand. So you might be wondering if you have to create credentials for every device individually. I mean, that's like a huge painstaking task, right? So fortunately, that's not the case. So NCM has a feature called credential profiles. So with this, you can essentially create credential profiles and easily associate them with devices whenever a new device is added to the inventory. So this saves a lot of time and effort when applying credentials for multiple devices. Just give me a second. Thank you. So now let's like once again quickly get back to the UI and see how this works. So go to config automation and you have the credentials option here. So these are all the existing credential profiles that we have already created. In case you want to create a credential profile, click on the plus icon here, enter a name, description, and just like give the relevant credential details over here, and then you can click save, and the credential profile will be created. So, and once you save and add this credential profile, it will be listed over here. And you can, just like select it and then like proceed with discovering the device as in like we saw earlier. So we also have something called credential rules. So this simplifies the process of associating credentials with devices even further. So with credential rules, you can create a set of rules based on specific criteria, such as IP range, protocol, and credential profile. So when a device is discovered and the credential rule is enabled, NCM automatically assigns the appropriate credential profile to the device if it meets the criteria defined in the rule. So let's see this in the UI as well. So you have credential rules here. So once again, like if you click the plus icon, you'll be able to, create a new rule. So you can enter the rule name, description. You can, choose to select the devices either based on criteria or like from the device groups. So if you choose criteria, these are all the various criterion that you have available: host name, IP, vendor, device template, series, model, OS version. You also have, different conditions over here, and then you can give them. And so you also have logical operations and or like in case if you're going for multiple criteria. So and finally just select the protocol and the credential profile that must be applied to, in case a particular like this credential rule is like satisfied, and then like you can click save. So these are all the existing credential rules that we have already added. Let's say for example, so this is a particular credential rule that we have created. So in case a device's vendor is like HPE and it belongs to the this mentioned IP address, that particular device will be associated with this credential profile and protocol automatically. So that's how credential profile and credential rules work in NCM. So this makes it easier for network admins to apply credentials to devices effectively. So one of the most possible errors that you might encounter during credential association in NCM is that the TFTP or SCP servers might not have started. So if you run into this issue, you should check the running status of the servers in the NCM server settings. So to do that, go to settings, general settings, and server settings. So here you can see the running status of various servers, like the TFTP, the SCP, SFTP, the syslog server, and more. So if any of these servers is shown as, not running instead of the running status mentioned here, you can simply stop the service and then start the service once again. So that's it. So now before we move on to the next topics, let's once again have a quick rewind into what we have covered so far. So first we saw like how device discovery works in NCM. We talked about the different discovery methods, individually and in bulk. And then like we saw how to handle common errors. And then we saw what device templates were all about and how they streamline your device discovery process. And then we went through credentials and under credentials, we saw about the credential profiles and the credential rules and everything. And we also saw how NCM uses device login details like, the username, password, enable password, prompts, SSH keys, and so on to securely access devices. And that's it. So finally, we also noted the importance of checking the server status like TFTP and SCP to avoid, any like bottlenecks. So now let's move on to the topic of backups. So ManageEngine NCM provides backup in three different ways. So the first one is like instant or bulk backup. The second one is syslog based automated backup. And the third one is scheduled backup. Excuse me. So let's start with instant or bulk backup. If a new device is discovered in your inventory, you can select the specific device and then click on backup. This will immediately back up the configurations for the set device. You can also perform this action for multiple devices at once. So let's see how this works in the UI. So let's go to the inventory and let's open a device. Let's say this one. So now we have to click the icon here, and here you have the option called backup. Once you click on backup, the backup operation will be executed. You see the success bar message here, right? So now the backup has been triggered. So next we have real-time change detection. So this is a syslog-based automated backup functionality. So how it works is that whenever a change is detected in NCM, it will automatically back up the change configuration. So you might wonder how this happens, right? So let me explain. So let's say that a user logs into a device, he or she makes some changes and then logs out, and a logout message is immediately sent using the syslog listener. So as soon as this message is received by NCM will back up the current configuration and compare it with the previous configuration file. So say if there are like any changes are detected, the new configuration will be saved as a new version. So if there are no changes, the backed up version will not be saved and will be discarded. This is how automatic change detection works. To enable this, you need to enable change detection for the devices. You can do this in the same menu you use for backup. Have the option over here, right? Enable change detection. So that's how it works. And once you select that option, change detection will be activated. So here are some of the possible errors you might encounter during the change detection process. One common issue is that NCM doesn't support syslog for a particular model. In this case, you can enable syslog by connecting to the device and executing the necessary syslog commands manually. Or you can contact our NCM support team for like any assistance. Another common issue occurs when change detection is enabled, but no changes are detected. So this could happen due to a mismatch between the syslog ports of the device and NCM, or if the NCM syslog server is not running. So as mentioned earlier, you can check the server status in the NCM server settings. You remember, right? Settings, general settings, server settings. Yeah, you can check it here. And you also remember, right? So if the status is not running, you just have to restart the service from here and you'll be all set. So next we have scheduled backup. So some devices in your network infrastructure requires like continuous and like regular backups. So it's impractical for network admins to remember to backup each device at specific dates and times manually. So for those types of devices, you can use NCM's configuration backup scheduling feature. ManageEngine NCM will automatically perform the scheduled backup operation and send you a report when it's completed. So let's once again like go to the UI and see how this works. So under config automation schedule and add schedule. Here you need to make sure that the schedule type is set to configuration backup. So let's say so in the report notification option, you can choose whether to send the report via email or save it directly in NCM. This option is helpful because like once the operation is finished, you can either have this report sent directly to you via email, or you can save it in NCM for you to review later. You'll also see some scheduling options available over here, like hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or even once. So depending on your requirements, you can select any of these options and set up the schedule accordingly. That's how you configure a schedule backup in NCM. So now let's discuss some potential issues that can occur during schedule backups. If a failure happens, it could be because the device's credentials are incorrect. So in such cases, what should you do? You should check the credentials and try scheduling the backup once again. So here are some of the common causes that can, lead to a backup failure. The first one is that, if the credentials have been changed or invalid, backup failure could like very well occur. And the second one, if, the ports are blocked or like the servers are not started, that is the TFTP or like SCP server has not started, the backup might fail. And the third one is that if a configuration file is too large, you can adjust the timeout settings of the device template and then try backing up again. And the fourth one is that if a device template contains unsupported backup commands for a specific device, the backup could fail. So to resolve this, what you can do is that you can edit the commands under the device template or provide a suitable device template that matches the device's configuration backup commands. By following these steps and checking these potential issues, you can troubleshoot and resolve backup failures in Network Configuration Manager effectively. So now let's talk about viewing configurations, starting with comparing configurations. So with ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager, you can compare two configurations of different devices or even two configurations of the same device side by side. As you can see, the comparison is like color coded. So this is for like, for your easy understanding. The added lines are like shown in green. The modified lines are shown in purple, and the deleted lines are shown in pink. So let's once again see how this works in our UI. Let's go to inventory and choose a device. Let me choose this version. So as you can see, uh, you'll notice that compared to the previous version, 40 lines of configuration has been added in this version. 0 lines has been have been modified, and 1 line has been deleted. And when we talk about the baseline version, totally 578 lines have been added, 22 lines have been modified, and 3 lines have been deleted. So if you want, you can, click on this to, see the specific changes that have been done. So here you get a detailed view of all the configuration changes that have occurred in a specific device, helping you keep track of every single change. So let's say there are thousands of lines in a network configuration file, and there is an error that has been, that has occurred after the configuration rollout. So how can a network admin like manually go through all the, configuration lines and find out exactly where went wrong? So with NCM's diff view, you can pinpoint the exact changes made even down to the thousandth line. So it makes tracking and managing configuration changes dramatically efficient. So now let's move on to the next topic, baseline configuration. We just talked about it, right? Like how you can find the difference between the current version and the baseline version. So what exactly is a baseline configuration? So essentially, it's a stable configuration that you can roll your network back to in case of like any unexpected network disasters. So ManageEngine NCM allows you to label the stable version of a configuration as the baseline version. So this way, even if something goes wrong, you can quickly upload the stable baseline version and restore your network to the previously known good state. So let's see how to label a version as baseline in the UI. So let's say I want to select this version as the baseline. Just click on the sandwich icon here, and you have the set as baseline option here. So this will mark this particular version as the baseline. Now let's say that there is an error with the device, and I need to upload a stable configuration. So how do I do that? Pretty simple. Let's go to the inventory tab, select a specific device, and click here, and you have this option called upload config. So here you'll be like uploading the the most stable configuration version. So when you're uploading the configuration, the version you labeled as a baseline will appear for both the startup and running configurations, depending on what you mark. You can simply click on upload config, and this baseline version will be uploaded immediately, stabilizing the device. So this covers both the baseline configuration and how to upload configurations. Now, here's a possible error that you might encounter during configuration upload. We don't support the upload feature for this device. So some common causes for this error could be that the telnet or SSH protocol being used, which is not supported for uploads. So to fix this, you can edit the credential from telnet SSH to SSH TFTP or SSH SCP, depending on the specific device. Another possible cause is that when the SCP or SFTP protocol is used, and when the device vendor supports it, the NCM device template does not, have the upload commands for the specific device. So in such cases, you can clone an existing device template or create a new one. Create a new one that's like suitable, or you can, very well contact NCM support, for further assistance. Then moving on. So here's another example of an error that can cause an upload failure. Command timeout. You can check the timeout settings of the device template and try the upload again. Also, based on the protocol being used, ensure that the TFTP or SCP server is running correctly by checking the server settings. So before we move on to the next topic, I'd like to let you know that we are giving away a free personalized demo, and we have generated a poll on the chat. So if you'd like to customize NCM according to your enterprise needs, please reach out to us and we'll help you set it up. Okay, I hope you all have responded to the poll for the free personalized demo that we are offering. You can use that if you'd like to, customize NCM for your enterprise needs, as I mentioned earlier. So now moving back to the session, the next topic is startup and running configuration sync. So this is a crucial functionality in a network configuration because the running configurations, should always be in sync with the startup configurations. All changes are typically made to the running configurations. So if a device shuts down or reboots unknowingly or accidentally, any changes made to that device will be lost if they are not synced up with the startup configurations. Therefore, whenever a change is made to a device, it should always be synchronized with the startup configurations. NCM helps by detecting conflicts between these configurations and can automatically sync them to ensure consistency. So let's once again get to the UI quickly to see how this works. Let's In the inventory tab, you see a column here, right? Once again, you see a column here like conflicts. So as you can see, some devices are in sync and some devices, it's mentioned as conflict detected. So when a conflict is detected, select the device, click this, and select the sync configuration option. So this action will immediately sync the running configuration to the startup configuration, and thereby resolving the conflict. So that's how startup and running configuration sync works in network configuration manager. Now let's talk about some potential errors that might occur during this process. One possible issue is that a change occurs, but the startup running conflict is not detected by NCM in real time. A common cause for this could be that real-time change detection has been disabled. To fix this, enable change detection for the device, and if a syslog is supported for the said device. So if syslog is not supported, the startup running conflict will only be detected and reported after the next successful scheduled or manual backup operation. Moving on to change management, which is another important feature of ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager. This allows you to view all the changes made to a device and automatically sync changes to different configuration versions. You can track the who, when, and what of each change, get a historical trend of changes for a device, and see the number of modified, deleted, or added configuration lines. One of the most important features in change management is the ability to receive change notifications and roll back to previous configurations when and wherever necessary. So let's see how this works in the UI once again. Go to config automation. Here you have change notifications. So as you can see, these are this is the list of existing change notifications. Once again, to create a new one, you can create click the plus icon, enter the name, description, select the configuration type from here, and the change type from here. You can choose the notification medium as well. You can choose either email, SNMP trap, syslog, ticket. For example, if you select email and a change has been detected on a device associated with this particular notification, NCM will send an email to the specified recipient notifying them of the change. Now let's discuss the rollback option. So this feature is useful for devices where you want to revert to a previous configuration without making any critical changes. To enable rollback functionality, select whether you want to roll back to a previous version or the version labeled as a baseline. So how it works, when a change is detected on the associated device, it will automatically roll back to the selected version, ensuring that unauthorized or unintended changes are reversed. So coming to the next topic, firmware vulnerability management. This feature in ManageEngine Network Configuration Manager is designed to help you manage and address your firmware vulnerabilities effectively. So here's how it works. NCM receives daily update from the National Vulnerability Database as well as from. Okay, so yeah, under there's a dedicated tab for firmware, firmware vulnerabilities. You can view all the detected vulnerabilities under here. So in this tab, the listing format includes the CVID, the base core, the device count, along with the severity and the reference URL over here. So these URLs, they provide detailed information about the specific CVID and the instructions for applying patch fixes. So next we have the exposed devices tab. So this section lists the host name, when host name like vendor, the version, the series, the model, and the vulnerability count. So for instance, let's say that a Fortinet device with version like 4.04 A series has like 25 detected vulnerabilities, then it will be like displayed under this tab. And here you have the version distributed section. This shows how many vulnerabilities are associated with a specific vendor's version and how many devices are running in this version. So this allows you to quickly assess how many devices are affected by vulnerabilities in a given version and prioritize patch fixes based on the severity. Let's go back to the presentation once again. And yeah, now let's talk about our newly released feature, vulnerability patches. So with vulnerability patches, you can instantly view all the detected vulnerabilities in your device's OS, and there, you can also find the recommended patches to resolve them. It also provides you with a detailed view of vulnerabilities across the device and patch levels, helping you prioritize and remediate CVEs in line with your network's unique requirements. So let's take a quick look at this feature in the UI. So here under vulnerability patches, you can, drop down and you'll find all the, first of all, you have all the discovered hosts here. And once you drop down, you can see all the detected vulnerabilities. So these vulnerabilities are, listed from critical to low severity. You can also, view the respective patches by clicking the view patches option here. So anyways, like you can find the patches like over here. And so essentially with this feature you can compare OS versions and upgrade to the one that best balances new capabilities with enhanced security. So our panelists will also be sharing a page with detailed information for reference in the chat panel. So now let's discuss the sync vulnerability database option. This feature updates the vulnerability data from the sources like NIST and other vendors to NCM's database every day at 3 a.m. by default. You can also customize this timestamp to fit your need. So if you're working within a closed network, you also have the option to manually upload CVE details. So go to sync vulnerability DB, and here under you can customize the time over here, and under manual import you can select the file from here along with the specific checksum value. So we also have a dedicated help page where you can download the necessary file and checksum. Just follow the link provided over here, download the file, upload it here, and enter the checksum like as we discussed earlier, and then just like import the data. And finally, we have advanced CV search option. You can enter a CV ID into the search field to get detailed information and all the related reference URLs. So this covers the firmware vulnerability management features in Network Configuration Manager. Next, we'll move on to disaster recovery. When a disaster event occurs, the primary issues you may face might include, degraded network performance, network outages, and even potential security breaches. So to mitigate these risks and be, well prepared, you should implement several security strategies. So you have to establish a baseline configuration for every device to ensure that it is secure and free from vulnerabilities. And second, you have to regularly synchronize startup and running configurations to prevent configuration drift. Third is you have to set up change notifications and enable rollback for critical devices to quickly revert to a stable state if needed. Fourth, you have to export device configurations to your system for future reference. And fifth, finally, you have to regularly back up your network configuration database. So we have covered the first 3 points. Now let's look at how to export configurations and back up the database. You can export the configurations of selected devices to a destination on your system, ensuring that you have a backup in case of a mishap. So for this, go to Settings, Global Settings, and Export Configuration. Here you can choose the export frequency, never, daily, weekly, monthly. You can also set the specific day and time for the export, and you can also choose to be alerted by email. You can enter the email address over here, and you can choose either from specific devices or from device groups. So let's say that I want to receive a notification by email upon completion when the configurations for this Cisco router group has been completed. So I'll select this, I'll enter the mail address, I'll set the frequency, I'll also mention the day over here, and also I'll enter the destination directory over here. I can even choose the destination folder name format, and then I'll click on export configurations now. So hope this is clear as well. So the next topic is database backup. So database backup involves creating a backup of NCM's database. You can schedule this backup to occur either monthly or weekly, directing it to a specific backup directory for future use. So let's see this in the UI. So under settings, general settings, database backup. Here you can enable this checkbox and choose the frequency, either monthly or weekly. Set the your required date and time, and specify the backup directory. For added security, you can also provide a password to protect the backup file. And once configured, you can click save. So this covers the database backup feature in Network Configuration Manager, which also brings us to the end of part 1 of this free training series. So let's have a quick recap of what we have covered in this session. So first, we talked about why the configuration management tool is needed and how NCM addresses this gap. And then we talked about NCM's additions and prerequisites. Then we talked about device discovery, device templates, followed by credentials, credential profiles, and credential rules. Then we talked about configuration backups and how to view and compare configurations. And then we talked about the startup running configuration sync. And then we talked about change management, and then firmware vulnerability management. And finally, we wrapped up with disaster recovery. So this is just a brief demo on Network Configuration Manager capabilities. If you'd like to get a free personalized demo or clear your doubts, I hope you have already responded to the poll. So for people who haven't, you can find the poll in the polls tab. And so once you have voted yes, our technical experts will contact you at the earliest. So before you leave, we'd like to give you a quick announcement of a new feature, programmable configlets. So programmable configlets allows you to apply dynamic logic and intelligent scripting in configlets. We'll discuss more about configlets in the next part of our free training series. And to learn more about this, once again, our panelists will also be sharing a link in the chat panel that gives you a detailed information about this feature. Let's take a quick look at the agenda of our next part of the free training series. We'll cover configlets, compliance, role-based access control, and reports. Topics will include, scheduling, CLI configlets, general configlets, compliance features, and so on. So if you like this presentation, please leave reviews in the post that we have generated. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you all in part 2 of our free training series. Have a great day. Thank you.